It's not like too much of a crazy story. I just when I started the podcast, I put it on my resume, and then I applied to my job for a different position. But then when I got the email for the interview, I was like, I was trying to remember what position I applied for. I was like, this wasn't the position I applied for. And then speaking to the recruiter, she said since I had a podcast on my resume, it would fit better to go with the audio team because audio, and then there was on the radio and podcasting, so it makes
Wow.
sense.
Today's episode of my podcast story, we have Ezekiel Williams, better known as Zeke, the creative force behind the Let's Gather podcast. Zeke's show dives into the vibrant worlds of anime, gaming, and music, all while fostering a sense of community and shared experiences. What makes Zeke's journey particularly compelling is his unique pivots into podcasting as a means to explore new career opportunities, all while showcasing his passion for storytelling and creativity. With a background in animation and even a moment of fame with a billboard on 34th Street, Zeke brings a wealth of experience and enthusiasm to the table. He's here to share his inspiring journey on how he built his show from the ground up and how he's using it to connect with others and make an impact in the world.
Can you tell us your name and the name of your podcast and what your podcast is about?
So my name is Ezekiel Williams. I'm the host and producer of the Let's Gather podcast, which I interview guests about their careers, interests, and their origin stories. So to start off, first couple episodes, I start with my friends, and I ask them about what their origin story is, and we talk about like different topics like anime, Marvel, and stuff like that, and then life outside of college or outside of high school, and then I moved on to like more different professionals, and then their careers like authors, scientists, and things of that nature.
Wow. How long have you been doing the podcast now?
I started recording episodes in 2019, releasing in 2020, and so since 2020.
Well, that's going to about 5 years now.
Yeah.
What was the real reason you started your podcast?
So after I graduated college, I didn't have a job lined up directly, and then I used to be a graphic designer, so I seen one of my clients was on a podcast, and then I was like, well, I can do that. And then since I have like, a lot of friends, I could get guests easily, and then I knew how to make the design and everything. I made my own logo, and then I took a web design class. I had like the skills to do like the production, and everything. So it was mostly just getting started.
Okay. I guess a follow-up question I would ask is, what were you hoping to get out of the podcast when you started the podcast?
So at first, it was the original idea was to do animations with the origin stories. So the first thing was just like get a job, just have the podcast and have it lead to a job. And I did get like a job in audio investment because of my podcast, which was highlighted in my resume. So I did do the original goal, but then the next goal was to see how big it can get, how more consistent it can be for me.
Wow. Um, is your podcast audio only or video and audio?
Video and audio.
Okay. Has it always been video and audio, or you just added that to it?
Hmm?
Has it always been video and
Yeah,
audio? Okay.
since the beginning.
How's the YouTube looking like?
For me, I wasn't too consistent with the YouTube. 'Cause I was still like when I first started, I really didn't like post about clips and everything, and then like just like life and everything. So like it could be better, but I say the audio has done better. Like it just moves on its own without my input. So for me to get the YouTube better, my personal idea is to start doing more shorts because a lot of shorts get a lot of traction. So then I can help the algorithm boost your other videos.
Yeah. Wow. So far, the question I want to ask now is, so far you've been podcasting. When you started, has there ever been a time when you record and only for you to realize that the audio wasn't there, or probably you didn't even press record?
Oh yeah, that happened to me like 3 times. Where first time was episode 14 where I did the recording and then I tried to use the platforms like to check the recording and it just had my audio and then had my guest audio.
Wow.
And another time later in like this like season 3, I had 2 guests. I used a different platform and again I only had my audio, didn't have their audio. So both times I had to record the episodes again.
Yeah. Wow. Currently, now that you've been podcasting for like close to 5 years now, what's your workflow like from idea to like publishing on the podcast?
So the idea is usually if I meet somebody that seems pretty interesting, I'll hit them up and say, hey, it's like it's in person, you like at a convention or something like that. I'll say, hey, I have a podcast, would like to be a guest. Or a lot of people will hit me up on LinkedIn or Podmatch, which is a platform where we met. How people introduce was like, hey, I'd like to be in your podcast. I look at their profile and see if it's like an interesting story. That's where the ideas come from. And then for execution, um, when I did it first started, it was in person, so I would use the school's study room and record on my cell phone and use a audio recording Zoom H6 to record the audio, and then have another phone to record the audio again, just to have the doubler for the audio. And now I use Zoom for this ease because mainly for the pandemic, and then it's just easier to do Zoom because like some of my guests from like Australia or around the world, so we can't meet in person.
Yeah, of course. Like currently now you're calling from where are you calling from?
Brooklyn.
See, and I'm calling from Nigeria. So
Yeah.
were to happen in real life, I can only imagine the travel cost and everything it would take for us to like record a podcast episode.
And then for the video, and the video audio pretty much edited the same. I kept it very streamlined and easier for me because I'm not like editing a lot of times can be too tedious. So what I
Yeah,
did was I made at the time I used an Adobe Premiere Pro, and I was using I made different files, just say files, different Premiere files that had the stuff already, the logo, audio already with the settings. So then all I do is just plug in and then change a few things. Makes it easier. And then listen back to see if I had to take anything out or any notes I wanted to use. I use Premiere to also get the transcript, so then I can find the clips faster, so I can just see like remember what somebody said at what times, and then I can just take it out there. And then after that, I export the audio into Adobe Audition and just level it out so everything's all leveled. Then put it back into Premiere Pro and then release it. So I have the audio leveled and then I have the video with the audio leveled.
yeah. Currently, you the one producing your podcast from like from start to finish. You have an assistant.
Nope, no assistant.
Oh, wow. Yes, you're crushing it. You're wearing many hats at the same time, and then isn't that the whole idea of being an entrepreneur? The question I want to ask now, you gave two reasons for starting your podcast. Um, it's close to 5 years now. How would, based on those reasons, how would you say your podcast is measuring up?
So for the first reason with the job, I got a job. I had a job for
Yeah,
3 years. So once I got the job, I had to find a new reason for the podcast. I kind of like lost all motivation and reflecting. I was like, why did I lose all motivation? I was like, because I did my goal. I got the job. I was like, okay,
yeah,
cool. So now my next goal is to see if I can change it up to test myself to see what elements can I add to the podcast to a bring value to guests, not get like bring value to the guests and bring value to the audience, and see like how can I differentiate myself from the rest. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, I was doing 30 episodes for the first like 3 years, and then like last year and this year I kind of slowed down because of life situations. I also trying to figure out what I want next with the podcast.
yeah. Are you still figuring out, or you figured out what you want for the podcast now?
I have an idea. I just need to write it out so then I can test it.
Oh, okay.
And mostly like going to like different businesses in New York and like not like doing like a travel, but like showcasing what small businesses are in New York and like using the different aspects of that to have like different content to then not only just have clips but have like other reasons why people will come to the platform.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. Like the goal and the reason sometimes change over time, and we have to like have know the core reason. Else we'll start questioning and not knowing why we're doing the thing in the first place.
Mhm.
Since your podcast has been up, have you ever gotten a message or fan mail from your listeners?
I had like 3 reviews and saying these couple of reviews like people who know me in person like oh you doing great, you're still doing this. So this is usually like the fan mail or like the comments. And nothing like too crazy. Or like sometimes I'll have a conversation in like a chat with not like chat like the comment section with the a clip I remember one time somebody said I looked like me and one of my guests looked like Juju and Andy Reid from the NFL. I was laughing.
Yeah. Well, I would have loved to like hear the specific details of any of those messages. Yeah, I don't know if you can still remember any of them.
It's gonna take me a second. See, I am. See, let me see. Now, so the reviews are just saying evolving and thriving. Zeke, you're finding your groove. You are smart and find interesting people to converse with. Thank you, brother. Tune in. Dopest podcast on the planet. And then Zeke touches on the topics that are always on your minds with honesty, all while being completely direct about it. He brings speakers that are just like you and I to talk about these topics. Can definitely see the podcast going far, becoming very popular. Keep up the great work, and I can't wait to see where this goes. So yeah, it's just mostly like my podcast is very chill. Like your podcast is chill,
Yeah,
relaxing.
yeah. Um, I believe that currently now, question I want to ask now, you shared some of the tools, and I noticed that you mentioned Adobe a lot. Probably that could be maybe because you have a background in design, so probably that's why it's kind of like influenced you choosing that as the tools you use. Currently, if you had to give an estimate of what it takes for like the amount you spend on your podcast for production, from start to finish, what would you say like in a month? Like what would you say is the expense for your podcast?
For me, with me, the expense is the phone bill because currently right now I'm using my cell phone as a webcam, and then Adobe is about like $30 a month. So you say whatever your phone bill is, $30 a month. Your internet bill, whatever your internet bill is, and that's about it. I try to keep the other costs low. I use the free version of Zoom. I use the free version of Canva. There are free alternatives to Adobe if you don't have it. That's what I'm trying to look at, and just to help myself budget and have different options just in case I don't have Adobe at the moment. I can
Yeah,
just say, hey, use DaVinci Dissolve, use Canva for the cover images for the episodes, use DaVinci Dissolve for the video editing, use Audacity for the audio editing.
yeah. I I believe that the things we work on, they also work on us. As regards podcasting, you've been podcasting for 5 years now. What are some of the personal? Okay, the question is in two phase. The first question is, what are some of the realizations? What are the new things you learned about yourself? And then the second question is, what are some changes or kind of like benefits of with specific instances or case studies that your podcast has kind of like done for you, other than the first top level, which was get you a job?
So I say what I learned about myself is uh give me a second, I had to think about this. It's a good question.
No problem. Take your time.
I'll say firstly, let me ask you the second question. The second question is I got completely lost. What I learned about myself, say how do I connect with people is kind of learned about myself. Like some people I could connect with in an instant, like, hey, first words, we are almost always friends. And then some people I had to like work towards it. So I learned pretty much just like the different personalities I can mesh with. I got a deeper understanding of that. And what was the second part of the question?
Yeah, the second part was what are some of the personal benefits you've gotten from podcasting with specific instances?
I'll say the benefits from podcasting is seeing who's on my side, like who will speak for me without me asking for them. Because a lot of times my friends were like, "Oh, he has a podcast," and that's just like not me just saying, "Hey, promote the podcast." It's just like, "Oh, just out of the kindness of their heart." And then the second thing is meeting the guests and learning about um their stories because like a lot of times the podcast episode will go longer because I just got so interested in what they're doing. Like one person, she was like a rocket scientist, not like a rocket scientist, but she works on satellites, and I'm very interested on figuring out like the different like we'll speak to somebody who works on satellites every day.
Yeah,
So it's just like, oh, this is very interesting too. It gives me a chance to like learn. I say having my friend like seeing who's like has my back, and the other hand, learning more about different things that you just never get to learn about.
yeah. Oh, okay, okay. Other than that, is there another one?
Let me go through the episodes. Because recently did an episode with somebody who's an entrepreneur. He is in real estate, but he also has a wrestler that he manages, and he has a rapper that he manages. And I was trying to figure out how the similarities and differences between those was interesting. Oh, that's almost like the same thing. They're traveling to different shows, traveling different things, and running for people. Then I'll say another episode is with my friends, Panic Bros. They are like a gaming channel, like gaming anime channel primarily, and like just seeing how they be friends at school, and just seeing how like we all had the same interests, we all had like a similar experience in life. It was like being outcast in school because of our interests, but then we persevered, and we all or all sharing, expressing them in different ways.
Oh, wow, thank you for sharing that. You mentioned that the major reason you started your podcast was to get a job. Like now you're trying to like the reason is evolving into something else and it's changing into something else. I'd love for you to like tell us a bit more about how from how when you started your podcast to how the job came about and go into specifics of the story. I'm kind of curious to know the story.
It's not like too much of a crazy story. I just when I started the podcast, I put it on my resume, and then I applied to my job for a different position. But then when I got the email for the interview, I was like, I was trying to remember what position I applied for. I was like, this wasn't the position I applied for. And then speaking to the recruiter, she said since I had a podcast on my resume, it would fit better to go with the audio team because audio, and then they was on the radio and podcasting, so it makes
Wow.
sense.
Wow. So you kind of had you kind of grew your portfolio using the podcast.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. You still have the job or you've moved
No,
on.
I got laid off last year, so I don't have it,
Oh,
but it was a good experience. I learned a lot, got a lot of free stuff, got a billboard out of it.
yeah. Are you in the market for a job or you've gotten a new job now?
I'm still looking. I'm working now, but also
Okay,
still
okay.
out there.
Wow. The podcast is Let's Gather, right?
Yes.
Have you made any attempt at monetization?
Not yet. I'm still still too small to like have a monetization that will actually like work at this moment. So
When you
that
s-
was
when you say you're too small, can you like give us um, uh, a behind the curtain look at what that means for you, so that we understand where you're coming from.
so for my podcasting hosts, what you call it, Red Circle, they want like 5,000, like 500 monthly listeners or like weekly listeners. I'm still in the 20s for weekly, so it's not valuable at the moment to like have like a sponsorship or anything like that. You probably can get sponsorships, but also with sponsorship, I say make sure it's something that you truly believe in, not just for the money, so your credibility is still there. And just in case if anything happened with the product, people will understand that you put your best foot forward and not just had a money grab and not just like rob from your audience.
Yeah,
But going back to the original point, it's just that I don't have enough monthly listeners at the moment to like really get the ball rolling.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then YouTube, I don't have enough subscribers and then concurrent viewers at the moment to get the YouTube money.
Yeah, I understand that. Other than ads, sponsorships, which kind of is a number game.
Yeah.
The more audience you have, the higher, the more amount of money you can make. Have you explored alternative monetization methods like maybe creating your product or affiliate marketing or any of one of those things?
For me, it would mostly be like merch because I have the skills. I could just make it and then make have open up a storefront and not just market it as like the podcast itself, but market it as like item that can live outside the podcast also.
Wow. And how's that been working out?
Oh, I haven't personally started it yet because just other reasons it's just beyond my control, but it's something that's in my back pocket of like, okay, because like once you start it, then taxes become a thing, and then if you're not making money, you still have to pay taxes. So like that's a whole nother situation that I had to figure out. But like that's like in the back of my mind, like another way to monetize the podcast, but also not monetize the podcast at the same time.
Well, so far you've been podcasting now for 5 years, what would you say is your like your top three favorite guest encounter, and probably share the reasons why those guests are like your top three in terms of experience so far with podcast.
I guess I'll say it's the one where I had the author of the Harriet Tubman Vampire Hunter, where me and him we met at NYC. At first, I seen his booth, and I like the concept of his comic book. And then we talked, and I asked him like, "Hey, you want to do the podcast?" He said, "Yeah." And then we scheduled the time. We talked. It was fun. We just connected on like different things of like how people perceived the his comic, and then how he went viral on TikTok because people seen the comic and it was like, "Who made this?" And everybody was like, "He made it," because like just for clarification. So talking about that. Another one, I had almost 100 episodes. So I blanking out on my episodes. I'll say speaking with animation at with Chubby Beagle Productions because in addition to me doing graphic design, I also can animate. I had made animation before, so speaking to them about like how their animation production was and like what's the process, how do they get clients, how do they work with clients, what actually is what's their thought process was like very interesting to like okay what notes I could take from them. And then last one, double check. It's been over 100 plus episodes. Channel. See a good one. Playlist. I'll say, and then another one. Speaking of my friend who runs a music review platform, Old Milk, and how like that was the first time since we both graduated high school we was able to like sit down and speak to each other, and then we we're just able to connect and talk about how different platforms were growing. And then the last one I would say is when my friends they also have a podcast, and then we was talking about like just growing up. That's when we was in our mid 20s, early 20s. Now currently in our closer to our 30s, our late 20s, and we just talking about growing up, talking about school, and then in the comment section, other people talking about how like even though you get older, you can still feel like you're not an adult. So like it
Yeah,
spilled outside the episode.
yeah. Wow, you've had like a pretty wide ride in a good way with your podcast.
Yeah. That was
Wow.
kind of like the thing I was trying to figure out. Like, should I niche down or have a variety? Because a variety, you can't. It's hard to market because not everybody gonna know what to expect. So you have to either market your personality or figure out a different way. But then if you
Yeah.
niche down, it's easier for people to track it and like see what. And also the algorithm could put you where people who might like it would be. But my interests are so varied that I wanted to have something that was varied as well.
You're currently what's the, like the download numbers looking like for the podcast, if you don't mind sharing.
Let me see. I haven't checked it yet. YouTube is pretty much just chill, just 22 views no less. Like say like the last month. Not because I haven't really been posting because like, I'm just trying to figure the background out.
Yeah.
And then for the audio, uh, it's about 23 per episode and 25 weekly, so a decent
Wow,
number.
that's a lot. Like I'm trying to imagine a room with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, filled it. So the question I want to ask is what would you say is like the major growth levers that has led to you moving from zero to the number of downloads you have now for your podcast?
Say for me, it was just having, luckily before the pandemic, having like the having it in person and like being able to speak to people in person, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm starting, really help get it started. And then I will hope to have like the various episodes is helping. I had to like see if I could do the math on that to say, hey, if like the variety topics are helping or is it just a few? So that's what I would say. Because right now, again, it's also been 5 years, so like it has a lot of time to like pick up steam.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the unique thing about consistency. When you just keep showing up, people tend to like pay attention to you. Oh, oh. Um, okay, we you said earlier on that you're trying to see, okay, what's next for your podcast? What's the next thing you want to do? How you're going to probably rebrand it and make it something else other than the first goal you had in mind. And I did ask if you figured it out, and you said, well, you had it, but you need to like write it down. And yeah, so I guess the question I want to ask is YouTube something that is in your radar of one of the growth channels you possibly see yourself doubling down on?
On YouTube, yeah, I'll say doubling down on the shorts definitely, and just like getting a lot of the material or like the clips beforehand, and then just have them just scheduled out so then I don't have to like do like edit every day and everything like that. Just get it out in a batch. So yeah, definitely double down on YouTube. Cause and then maybe double down on YouTube and Instagram or like the number two, and then have like the other social medias as like secondary. Just have like TikTok, Blue Sky, X.
Yeah,
But like definitely.
you've been podcasting for 5 years now. I guess the question I want to ask is, when you started your podcast, what was like um the lie or the myth you were told about podcasting that 2, 3 years into it you realized that, well, that's not true. Why did they tell me this? Why did I believe this?
I'm not sure. Cause when I started, I gave myself 10 years to do the podcast. So in
Oh,
terms of like I was like, cause it takes like 10 years to become an open net success. So I was like, well, let me just have like 10 years of this continuously doing it. Get of course taking breaks when you need to, but like that was the plan. But in terms of like lies, I'm not sure because most people just say just do it and just put it out there. I don't say I like it's only lies. I just say like there's certain things I just learned from my own like methodology of doing like at first with the clips I would try to remember what somebody said and just go through the clips myself, but then I started using transcripts to go through the clips to make it easier for the timestamp. So like me, it was mostly like it wasn't like lies, it was mostly just evolving to make the workflow better.
okay, okay. Um, Now I've asked you about monetization, and I've asked you about growth, and I've also asked you about the purpose of your podcast, and we've also looked at some of the numbers and monetization. So I guess the question before I proceed into asking another question, I guess the question is, um, do you have a plan for monetization, or is it just you don't really mind, it's a passion project, and as long as, well, that's true. I think two reasons. The first time when you started, it didn't really matter as long as you got a job. Now that you're branding your podcast, I guess probably when you have that all figured out, then you probably know if monetization will come into it. But I guess the question is, what do you see in regards of the timeline of monetization? Or is this something you just, oh, I don't really mind? Because for me, when I think of monetization, I tend to think of, okay, how can I help the people more? Especially when you're creating your own product, your own service, maybe coaching and stuff like that. It's more like, okay, how can I help the people more? But instead of when I do help them more, they get to also pay me. So, yeah.
Um, I say what it looks like. At first, the monetization will look like this, mostly like this podcast paying for itself. And then in terms of a service, I had ideas like just like doing like podcasts, helping people design stuff for the podcast. Not too much, I think, but I probably could like have like a service like that was like an idea. I had an idea of trying to see like have like a free meeting to see where they are with the podcast because like a lot of people did ask me how to start a podcast when I started the podcast. Like, hey, what should you do? So like I wrote down like everything, like a list. I had like a PDF I would send out to people. Say, hey, this is my methodology of like starting a podcast. What do you need to know and how to get things started? So that was like the first, not like monetization, but like the first service to people to like streamline people asking me for questions.
Okay.
In terms of like coaching, I think I probably could coach now. Now like again like a posture syndrome I had probably felt earlier. I was just like, am I even ready to coach? But like I was already doing that when people asked me the questions of how to start. So
Yeah.
that could probably can be something.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because you've been doing podcasting for like 5 years now, and you've picked a lot of skills along the way that now you can kind of monetize them either as services or indirectly.
Mm-hmm.
If you were asked to share like your top, let's say top 5 stories or top 3 stories regarding podcasting, right? Just the way we have stories regarding a relationship, regarding different facts of our life. If you were asked to share like 3 to 5 stories regarding podcasting, what would be those stories, and could you share them with us?
3 stories.
Yeah, like your most remarkable, memorable experience, whether good or bad, that you just can't forget. The moment they mention podcasting, that's what's the stuff, the memories that keep flooding into your head.
I'll say in the first season when I was doing like one of the was it like episode 6, I believe, when I used to have like a whole idea of like what questions I'm gonna ask my guests, and then we went through none of the questions, and we had a great conversation. So that's kind of when I was like, okay, let's move away from just like having the questions on hand all the time, and just more towards to having a free flowing conversation.
Yeah,
And then the second story, I'll say it's like not like one story, but like multiple stories. When a lot of times my friends, I would ask them to be in the podcast, and then we switch the episode, and then they were like, "I was waiting for you to ask me." So just like seeing how many people had the interest of being in the podcast, yes, and like they was joking like you they thought I was never gonna ask them.
yeah,
So like having that funny moment, multiple funny
yeah.
moments,
Oh,
and then I'll say the last one. I'll say one time I was recording a podcast, I was recording an episode, and then my camera fell during the episode. The phone just fell, so then I had to pick it up and speak of it in real time. So they just have like that funny moment. It was like, oh, even years in, things can still happen.
yeah. Oh, what made the camera fall?
No, it's the same phone, just the phone on the tripod. The tripod just fell. Yeah, so I was like, oh, my camera.
Oh. I mean, it's one of the processes, especially when you're the one toggling everything. You're your cameraman, your sound engineer. You're basically doing everything. So you just have to like wear many hats, and yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, it's a passion project, and it's nice. I like what you've done with your podcast. It's one of the core ideas of podcasting is it's yours, and you can basically do whatever you want with it. And
Yeah.
that for me, it's a really inspiring story.
Yeah, when I made like adult talk, I was trying to figure out like what's to name this episode, and I was like, I could just make it adult talk because it's my podcast. Nobody knows
Yeah,
this. Nobody knows the process of why I named it.
yeah. Well, what made you later settle on Let's Gather?
I was trying to figure out like the name of the podcast. I went to my friends. They were trying to figure out what to name it. I was trying to think of like anything with origin stories, but I couldn't really think of something like that. Then when I got home, spoke to my mother, and then just randomly in my head, it said "Let's Gather" popped into my head, and we both looked at each other like that can work. And then I just make sure I Googled. I was like, is this anywhere else in the world? And no, there's no podcast. There's only letsgather.com was a website, but it went straight to Chick-fil-A. So I was like, letsgatherpodcast.com is not under any domain. So that's kind of like the process. It was mostly me just trying to figure out. And then that also helped, like, having it called Let's Gather helped me um market the very various topics of the episodes and not just having these now.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good thing you mentioned a website. Do you have a website for your podcast?
Yeah, letsgather.com, letsgatherpodcast.com. Originally, it was made by me using HTML and CSS, but now it's under WordPress. So if you go
Yeah.
to
Welcome to the club,
letsgatherpodcast.com.
brother. Welcome to the club. Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. I guess the question I want to ask now is, what does the website do, and how is it measuring up? Do people even go to the website?
Just the traffic, I literally had to figure out how to look at that. I have never really looked at the traffic, if I'm being honest. It's kind of mostly just a place to host it. Post the transcripts. I still need to get back on those. But in terms of the website, it's mainly just like a place where people can find it because most people are going to go to a website in today's age of like, oh, you have something that like whatever the name.com is going to be the first thing they think of.
Yeah.
So mostly there's like a landing page. It's just like, hey,
Oh,
it's the thing.
yeah. Well, how was the switch like from HTML to WordPress?
Um, so what happened was the since I had the transcripts, the pages were becoming too much for me to manage. So I was like, let me just move the WordPress under my under my website hosting already, so I don't have to like pay anything extra. So that's another thing to add to the podcast if you have a website, the website cost will be added to the podcast.
Yeah. I think we forgot that part when we were
Yeah.
talking about the cost.
So I just taught myself WordPress that weekend, and I accidentally launched the website, so I had to really finish it that weekend. So pretty
Oh,
much it wasn't too crazy. I just looked online and see what kind of tutorials I had, like what was more plug and play for WordPress, and then I just went with that. It didn't work the first time, so I somewhere in the process I messed up, so I had to restart it and remake the website again within the weekend, and I got it done. Is it the best website? I don't know. I just got the B in the web design class, so I'm not an expert.
if you're saying you're not an expert, what will I say? You that you studied web design. What about me that's probably not even touched or done anything regarding that aspect? I mean, the goal is for the website to get the job done, and so we have to like ask ourselves
Yeah.
why is the website there in the first place? Are you building? Are you collecting email addresses for your podcast?
I should. It's just the thing is what I never really had like an extra thing to give to people. Like what extra like a Patreon, like what extra service I was going to give because granted I was doing the podcast, but I was doing like four other things at the same time, so it wasn't like I had even extra energy to like do extra stuff. And also I was like, well, record more episodes. Having early access to episodes isn't really like worth it. So like I say, I can collect the emails, but like I don't have anything to do with them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about email is that it's always nice to have them, even though you don't have it figured out yet. Because then, when you have something to give them, probably let's say you create your own service, you have your own coaching, you have your own products, or any of those things. It's easier to just send an email and you just get response from people rather than waiting for when you have something eventually to say before you build an email list.
Got you.
Thank you so much for sharing your podcast story with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. If you had the opportunity, if you for those that are just starting out, for those that are considering starting a podcast, uh, what would you what would you advise them? What would you tell them?
I'll say get with the resources you have and start. You don't have to wait for everything. Like I didn't need the Zoom A6 to start. I could have just used myself, use just two cell phones and started. If it's just audio, just get it started and then listen to feedback, see what's working, what's not working. And also it's okay to make a change. Like we said before, it's like art. Nobody knows what your original intention was. Nobody's gonna know that, oh, you made a mistake or this didn't go plan. People are just gonna see the end result. Those are like all my tips.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think before we conclude the podcast, is there anything you love to share that you feel that I didn't get to ask you regarding your podcast?
No, I think we went through everything. It went well. I'll just say no, I think it went thorough.
Okay. Where can listeners learn more about you and your podcast?
You can go to letsgatherpodcast.com. That's where you can find the transcripts, the episodes. You can go to youtube.com. That's Gather Podcast is on there. All the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Those are the top two, and then the other ones, the lesser ones, are also there. You go to social media, TikTok, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook. It's either under Let's Gather Podcast or Let's Gather Pod. You can find the podcast under those two names.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ezekiel, for coming on the podcast and for, sharing all the behind the scenes of your podcast and all the little details. I really, really do appreciate that.
Thank you for inviting me.
That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I am Wisdom Okonkwo, and I hope this conversation sparked new ideas and gave you a deeper look into the heart of podcasting. If you've loved this episode, consider supporting the show by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/wisdomhq. Every bit helps keep the stories going. And hey, don't forget to follow, rate, and share this podcast with another podcaster or creator who would find it helpful. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.